Thank you, Mr. White. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 13th meeting of the school committee, Wareham School Committee. If we could just rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. As usual, tonight is being recorded by WCTV and also by Ms. Ruiz. If anyone else is making a recording, you just have to let the chair know. I see Ms. Chloe at the beginning over there. She's recording, just so you know. Anyone else? That's okay. And with that, we'll open up with the public participation. Anyone wishing to speak before the committee? Seeing none. Good news. Anyone? Joyce.
First, I'd like to congratulate Emily, our student rep, on her election as the lieutenant governor of the Key Club. So how many Key Clubs are you overseeing now?
There's 10 across the Cape.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd also like to congratulate the elementary schools on all of the creative ways that they've celebrated 100 days. I still can't believe 100 days of school have gone by. Time flies. And also today, I did see that Minor Forest has a buddy bench. So I think that's such a great idea. So I did send an email to Mr. Flaherty today and asked him to invite some of the folks, the students and others at Minot who made that happen, because I'd love to hear how that happened.
Yeah, that's great. I can't wait for that.
Yeah. And also a couple of weeks ago, I was present at the high school for a presentation on the Naviance program. It's something that we talked about at a school council meeting, and it was put on by the director of guidance at the high school and one of the guidance counselors. And there was really so much information contained in this program. So I just want to remind everyone, I think I've said it before, that it's out there and available. And I did look today, and the parent sign-on or family sign-on for Naviance is on the homepage of the high school. I don't think it was always there. I think they made a point to put it there to make it more accessible to everyone. So I just want to thank them for that and just encourage everyone to go out and take a look at it, because there's so much, whether you're going to college or you're not, there's just a lot of information on there. That's it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Rossi.
I'm just getting the wording correct of what the actual conference is, but I wanted to congratulate the hockey team on making it into the, I believe it's the South Coast Conference tournament.
It's like the gold something or... No,
yeah, that's why I was waiting for it to load, but I have a really spotty signal. But I think it was based on last night's game. I believe that moved them ahead in the South Coast Conference. So I just wanted to congratulate the team, and I believe that the senior Q DeCanto actually is now, I think, the number 2? Thanks, Indy. The number 2 top scoring Viking hockey player of Wareham history. So that's pretty huge accomplishment. And the season's not even over yet. So he's got some time to scoot right back up. So I just wanted to give the hockey team a shout out for all their hard work.
Anyone else? I'd like to just acknowledge I went to the alumni basketball game. It was the first time I went to one of those. I could finally make it, and it was really fun to watch. And I mean, so many faces I didn't know were Wareham alum, including Mr. Andrews, and there were so many I didn't know which team to really pick. So I went with the white shirts. It was a great game. It was a tight game, and Mr. Fawn said, was one of the referees as well. It was good to see him too. I think I saw somewhere online that the people were a little upset that they didn't know about it, but it was pretty packed. I was lucky to get a seat, actually. Also, I attended the Cape Cod Collaborative. They put on their legislative breakfast, and I sent the invite to the school committee. I was the only one from Wareham that went, but I mean it's tough to make it to those. It's in the morning, but Representative Gifford did make it, and several representatives made it, and superintendents and town administrators. It was informative, and that's all I've got. Anyone else? All right. Moving on to report of the student representative.
Hello, everyone. To start off, here's a message from Key Club. Have you been wanting to help donate to your community? Well, we are pleased to announce that Wareham High School is joining the Teens for Jeans collection effort sponsored by Airpostal. It helps teens who need jeans and helps our environment by repurposing them. We are telling kids at the high school to bring unwanted jeans to their advisory to be collected, but the community can donate also. You can drop them off at the main office and leave a note for the Key Club. Some stuff has been delivered to the Idea Lab Maker space in the library. The 3D printer has already been put to use. Ms. Kashner's class created water cycle models. Ms. Cunha's class created game pieces for business products. And Ms. Cunha's class created ceramic stamps for ceramic creations. Some other things that have been delivered are gaming computers, iPads, and Cricut cutters, which can cut leather, thick cardboard, and other hard materials. The boys' basketball senior night is tomorrow at 6:30 at home against Folk Tech. Be there to support the team. Also occurring tomorrow is a Valentine's Day breakfast for students at the high school, courtesy of Chef Breda and lots of student volunteers. We made cannolis and heart-shaped pancakes and decorated the cafeteria in festive pink and red. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Emily? No? Okay. It sounds great. Okay, we're on to the minutes of the meeting, January 23rd, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And any discussion? And, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0-0. Oh, sorry. I always forget this. I'm sorry. Dr. Shaver, who couldn't make it tonight, she had some scheduled time off, and we are graced to have Dr. Schwam in her stead. Welcome. Sorry about that. So moving on. Global Ambassadors, April 2021 study tour presentation. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Just if you wouldn't mind stating your names for the record.
Sure. Joe Franco, business teacher.
I'm Brooke Chandler. I'm the president of Global Ed at the high school.
I'm Indiana Troop, treasurer of Global Ed.
I'm Ava Sullivan, the vice president of Global Ed.
Welcome. What's going on?
So we're talking about the trip for next April in 2021, for the Azores in Spain.
Yeah, so this was one of the trips we've been planning for a little bit now, and it's set to take place in April 2021. It's a 9-day trip, so we spend a couple days in Portugal, we spend a few days in Madrid, and then we spend a few more days in Barcelona. So kind of gets everything in there in Spain and Portugal. The trip, 3 days in Azores, 2 days in Madrid, and 2 days in Barcelona. So we're really excited. It's something we've been wanting to do. All of us are going to talk about how we have the Spanish classes at Wareham that help connect to this, and the Portuguese background in Wareham. So if you guys want to.
We really wanted to travel to Spain because a lot of students in general take a foreign language, and it's mostly Spanish. There's a lot of variations of Spanish. We even have an IB Spanish class, so it would be good to have an opportunity for students to further their knowledge of the language by actually going and getting to see it firsthand, because the best way to learn is to immerse yourself in what's around you. Yeah, so thank you. The overall trip is $3,387, which is the triple room rate. Students can choose to pay more if they want to stay like double or single, but most students usually go for the cheaper option. So this price includes transportation, like the flights, the coach bus, trains, as well as like 3 to 5 star hotels, breakfast, 3-course dinners, and all admission fees. The only things it doesn't cover would be like, spending costs and lunch. So the travel agency we always travel with, Lingo Tours, does a great job of making the tours as safe and as fun as possible for all students, as well as like really immersing them in the culture and the academics present in those areas. So they do a good job going to like historical monuments and really teaching kids about the history of these countries.
Any questions? Ms. Rossi?
So I know you guys have done a lot of great things with Global Ed. Do you guys have planned like deadlines for when you want the students to sign up for this by, like what the latest date would be? And then what do you encourage? Do you guys do group fundraising as a club and as well as individual? And that obviously if it's a group fundraising effort, how does that offset blanket cost and lower the general, or does whatever their participation do apply to that individual child?
So in terms of enrolling, once we move forward, students can start enrolling. Technically, the enrollment doesn't start until October 17th of next year, but we start spreading the word out, especially because I know this is now my second year, and I made it clear that I would not do it unless there was a way to help kids figure it out financially. So Brooke's going to talk about the CARE program and how she's leveraged that. So we offer scholarships as well as the CARE program. We do also, every time we do a trip, throw it out there if they want to do fundraising. We haven't had to. Kids have been able to take the advantage of the programs that we do have, but that is something that we will again open up, and as long as it's student driven, it's their ideas and they're the ones that are making it happen, I'll be happy to facilitate with them. So, and Brooke can talk about the CARE program and how that works.
Yeah, so there's an opportunity for students that want to go on these trips to look at the CARE program. So I've done it myself twice actually, because I went on the trip last year and I'm going this April, and it really helps offset the cost. So basically, like after school, you go to one of the other schools and help the younger students with homework and with other after-school activities. They do like little clubs and such. And you get paid like a regular job, like $12 an hour. It's like a stipend. So then towards the end, it goes straight into your account. So you don't actually make the money for yourself, and it goes straight into the trip. It's really helpful for students that want to pay it off. And if students really like are set on paying off their whole trip, we have had students in the past pay for nearly all, like the trip's usually about like $3,000, and they have paid for almost the whole thing. Because you can work, as soon as you sign up for the trip, you can work all through the summers and the winters as long as there's enough room in the budget for that, which there usually is.
And I just wanted to add that this trip was also decided on by the student group that we put together last year to decide the future trips. So they were the ones that decided our trip to France this year, and our two top choices were France and Spain. So when they thought about these ideas, we got quotes from Lingo Tours directly of our top three choices. And this quote was one of the lower ones, and it's a lower price trip, and it still is an amazing opportunity. So that was another reason a lot of the students were really interested in this trip. So we think there's going to be a lot of student interest for that reason. So it's a lower cost too.
Yeah, and most of the students that if they really want to like work hard to go on the trip, because if their family can't afford it, they can absolutely pay it off.
Yeah, I think that's near and dear to my heart. So if there's a kid that really wants to go, we will figure out a way.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you.
That's very important.
Anyone else? Ms. Spear.
Thank you. It's available for 8th through 12th, or?
Everyone, as long you can be like a Wareham citizen, like anyone. We have adults go, teachers go. I don't know what the other requirements are. I think it's open to pretty much everyone.
Yeah, it's open to the community. If there are any adults that want to go, obviously we would put a query check and all that stuff. But yeah, and I think it's great because the collaboration with the community, if we can get folks to see our kids in action, it's pretty impressive.
It's great too because we have kids that still live in Wareham, but school choice to other schools or go to Upper Cape that are going on this trip, and we hope to get more of that so we can kind of show them what's going on.
And all the chaperones that go, their cost is offset because they work too. So it also is helpful for us getting chaperones. It's never been a problem.
Ms. Rossi.
Now, if the number of interest, now that you put it out, to the community, if the number of people attending goes up considerably in comparison to what this one was, does the cost per person go down, or is that flat?
Yeah, the cost is flat.
Okay.
What changes is the number of chaperones. So we do a 1 to 10 ratio for the first 20, and then after that, every 6, we have to add a chaperone. So this year, it's one of our biggest ones, and we have 24 just students, and then another 12 adults going. So So it gets
And so
big.
when you said offset chaperone cost, what does that entail?
Yep. So the price of the trip includes like the chaperones do not pay for their trip because they are working that entire time. So during that 10-day period or 9-day period in this trip, so the only thing that they would have to pay is if they wanted to have like their own separate room or something like that. But if we have 2 female chaperones, we'll put them together. So anything we can to lower the cost.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mary?
So the question I had was, how are you advertising this to the school choice people and the community? and all that?
So once we decide we're going to move forward, then we'll start our marketing campaign. So we do everything from Facebook, posters outside. We haven't in the past done community, like say at the local Shaws. It's something we talked about last year, but the demand was really, really strong last year, so we didn't even have to really worry too much about it. We anticipate this one will be extremely popular just because of the locations, but we would advertise it as soon as we can move forward. And, the first thing I typically like to do is have a big introductory info session. I remember I talked to
Right.
Indy's mom,
Yeah.
and she's like, "This is really expensive. How are we going to do it?" I said, "We'll figure out a way," and Indy is all set. So, yeah, that's how we're going to go about doing it.
Yeah, and there's also, pending approval, we always have a presentation with all the students from every grade at, I think, the middle school and the high school. So
Yeah, we really get the word out for all the students, and I think that's what really helped getting the trip that's coming up this April in action, because in like the trip last April, we only had like about 9 students, and it was mostly adults that went. We still had a pretty large group, but it was mostly adults. But with the student-driven locations, it's really brought up like the interest for the school, so it's really helped a lot getting students.
Great, thank you.
So which trip was that? That was mostly adults?
That was
Eastern Europe.
Yeah, the Eastern Europe.
Did any of you go? Yeah,
Both of us went.
How was it?
It was
so much fun.
amazing.
Yeah, Lingo Toys does a great job of like everything. It's so safe and just
Okay.
a great experience.
Yeah, it was cool. I think we did.
7 countries, right?
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
We squeezed in one
Yeah.
more. So we were only there in the gas station and stopping for gas. But hey, we were in Croatia, so we
No.
Count it.
counted it.
Count it.
No, when you say those mostly adults, they weren't all chaperones, were they?
No,
No.
no.
You have to
Okay.
pay.
Okay.
If you go, you pay.
Teachers also. Some teachers come with like their families and they'll like take it as like a vacation almost.
Yeah.
and parents of students, a lot of
Yeah.
them go too.
It does sound expensive, and I guess it kind of is. But I'm looking at tuition for colleges, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, it's a dime in the bucket. Jeez.
Definitely.
God.
It's an experience of a lifetime. It
Yeah.
really is worth
Yeah, I
it.
keep saying to myself, I'm going to do it. I never do it. Maybe I will. I don't know.
And even with this trip, with the France trip coming up, when I first signed up for it, it was just France. And then, we found out it was Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, and France. And it was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So-
They do a good job.
All right, awesome. And do you need a vote from us or anything at this point, or no?
I don't think so.
Okay. Any other
This one.
questions or comments? Well, thank you. You guys did a great job.
Great job.
Oh, no,
No,
sorry.
I was just
Emily.
curious, do you guys have any idea like where you're going, any landmarks in particular, or is it just too soon?
Yes, we do. I have a list.
cool.
So we have an optional excursion to the Versailles Palace.
Oh no, that's for this.
Oh, no,
trip.
that's the wrong one. Sorry.
For this one,
lying.
we will be going. We'll be landing in São Miguel, Ponta Delgada in Portugal, in the Azores, and then we'll go to Madrid. We're going to see the Royal Palace in Madrid. We're going to see the Mercado de la Boquera in Barcelona, and that's the extent of my.
Spanish?
And then there's an option to do the Toledo Day excursion. That's the one I meant. So there's a lot of good opportunities within it.
Awesome.
Anything else? No.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you. For
you.
your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, update on new elementary school by project manager. Thank you very much for coming tonight, guys. Ms. Bakayaki and I get to see you guys just about every month, but it's good to have the rest of the committee see you guys too. Just, when you get to the mic, just introduce yourselves.
Sounds good. Thank you for having us.
Which one would you like first?
Dennis, you want to do the slides or the fly around? It's up to you.
We can, why don't we do the slides, and then the fly around will be the process, okay?
All right.
We do it that way?
Sounds good.
Okay.
So introduce. Go
Yeah.
for it.
I'm Dennis Staley, Mount Vernon Group Architects. Thank you for having us here tonight.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
I'm Mark Adrian. I'm with PMA Consultants, the owner's project manager.
And Chad Crittenden, also with PMA Consultants.
Excellent.
Okay, so, well, again, we've been working on this, it seems like forever, but it's really taking shape now. It's out to bid, and we have what we think is going to be a wonderful school, and now through the wonders of modern technology, we can present it in a way that almost looks real. This is an aerial shot so you can sort of understand the layout of the school. Does anybody have a pointer? Nobody has a pointer.
No.
Okay. But as you can see, the school is sort of like an L shape, a crooked L shape. And the lower wing and the wing to the right are classroom wings. The lower wing includes the lower grades, all the early childhood grades from pre-K through grade 2. The wing on the right includes grades 3 and 4. And the center part is really, if you think of each of those grades as a neighborhood, one should think of the center of the school as the downtown. And what we find there is all the parts of the building that are really public parts, the gymnasium, the cafeteria, the media center, or as we call the innovation hub.
We're going to see about turning off some lights here. Hold on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Much better. Thanks.
Yeah, so, yes, so besides the administration offices and so forth being in the center on the first floor, you also have the gymnasium, the cafeteria, and the music classrooms. And on the second floor, you have the innovation hub, which is really the 21st century media center. We'll talk a little bit about that when we look at the floor plans. So the next, here's a little bit, we're coming down, helicopters going down a little bit, and you get a better view of the main entry. Right there in the middle of the central core is the main entry and welcomes everyone into the school. There are parent drop-offs and bus drop-offs all around the school, and we've all worked very hard with the committee to determine how circulation will work on those critical 20 minutes before and 20 minutes after school every day. Next slide. This is a picture that is from the rear of the school. If one were to be up on the, this is from the direction of where the soccer fields are, and probably an additional 20 feet off the ground, looking down at the back of the school. And what one sees here are those 3 large windowed area is the cafeteria, which bring great light into the area with easy access for the kids to get out to the play areas at the soccer field. To the left of it is the gymnasium, and to the right of it is the music department. And I'd like to add that the music department is located there because immediately adjacent to that, between it and the cafeteria, is the stage. So it's really a cafetorium where events can take place. So again, looking at the main entry, we can see on the left-hand side, that's the lower wing, and you'll notice that that's a 3-story wing. The bottom floor of that wing contains the pre-K and kindergarten classrooms, and it has its own entry to accommodate their different drop-offs and scheduling and so forth. The second and third floors contain the first and second grade, and down closer to us, the wing closer to us is where the third and fourth grades are located. Again, all being surrounded. So we've just come around the corner of the third and fourth grade classroom wing, and the third grade on the lower floor, fourth grade on the second floor. And as we move further around the building, we can see on the left the gymnasium again, and the cafetorium, and the music department. We go a little bit further, and we see the secondary entry, which would be a drop-off. You can see it on the upper left-hand side, which is just outside the music department, where there can be a drop-off for buses and for student arrival in the morning. And then down at the bottom of the screen, or on the right-hand side of the screen, you see the rear doors to the kindergarten and pre-K area, again, which is on the first floor there. And that is that serves the age-appropriate playgrounds that will be all around this wing of the building. We'll go further around the building and see the main entry there of the kindergartens with that pediment, that blue pediment, and bringing the children into the kindergarten and pre-K. I should like to say that this end of it, the smaller end of it, is where the pre-K classrooms are located, and as it moves in underneath the building, those are where the kindergarten classrooms are located. And right at where they both come together is where the administration, so it has its own administration, its own gatekeeping, its own greeting area. Same thing would happen, again, at the main entry with its own gatekeeping. It's designed in such a way that the administrative offices are right there at the front entry. They can see people coming in, and it's designed in such a way where people could be buzzed into the vestibule, and once in the vestibule, can report who they are through a window, and then again be buzzed in. So there's a whole series of checks for very secure gatekeeping. And the floor plans present themselves pretty easily. This is the first floor showing the first grade, at the bottom the third grade, and what you see at the lower part here is like the roof of the kindergarten area. We'll do that floor last. But there's the main entry in the middle of the picture with the administration and OT, PT, and so forth down on the first floor. You can see the gymnasium as indicated by the basketball court, and the very large cafetorium with the kitchen is in the middle, and there's a dividing, that purple line you see, there's a dividing partition, so the cafetorium can also be broken up into two individual spaces for different sorts of activities. And one can see the stage, and then in orange, the music classrooms. I'd like to note that if you look at the first grade neighborhood and the third grade neighborhood, the important thing to note here is the similarities between them. As the children move through this school, they'll always be in neighborhoods with the same kids, their cohort, but they'll be moving into neighborhoods that are similar. Now, they won't all look alike. The colors will be different, and they'll have their own energies, but the way it's laid out and the familiarity will stay true all the way through their first through fourth grade experience. The next slide will show.
Dennis,
yes.
Could you just mention the blue spaces and what they mean, and how the administrators are also spread out, like how we've spread out assistant principals, guidance counselors within each neighborhood? I think that's important.
It's very important. Yes, the whole concept was, thank you, the whole concept was to ensure that there's always adult eyes everywhere, and so we have administrators located throughout the building, but also we have within the neighborhoods all the special education at every grade level integrated as a very essential part of each neighborhood. So they're part of the cohort. And you'll also notice that there are some yellow areas with purple around them. Those are not rooms. Those are actually areas in the wider space between. We sort of gotten, and I think I really should stand to sort of point these things up. We're walking away, stepping away, I should say, from the whole idea of schools with just a corridor, just a hallway, which is a useless piece of space, but instead places where there are very active areas that can be used all the time, where these once were hallways, open up and allow places for project-based learning and other things, and to have adult other than the teachers present brings familiarity with all the students and the adults in the building. And having special education as an integral part of each community is important, because for far too long, special education classrooms have been, relegated to a certain part of the school or to other spaces once utilized for other things. If we move on to the next slide, we can see that, again, the second and fourth grades share all the same sort of attributes, but instead of meeting together at the administration, gym, and cafeteria area, they meet at what we call the Innovation Hub. We all grew up with libraries, and as time went on with media centers, and now now that we're 1/5 of the way through the 21st century, we find, accommodating today's learning modalities is really quite different. And this Innovation Hub really helps bring a lot of those things together. I think that the hallmark of that is STEAM. STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And the whole idea of bringing all those disciplines together is because they all nurture one's ability to learn holistically. And that's why we've even included the art rooms, both clean art, three-dimensional art, and painting, all there. So whether it be technologically driven or tangibly driven, hand-eye coordination, it's all there. With allowing for exhibition areas and also for presentation areas where children can either make presentations themselves or learn together from an expert making a presentation. It also has a television studio, and again, the STEAM room opens to a roof deck, which can sort of expand that sort of learning to the outdoors in a safe area. Next slide. This is the pre-K day. So here was that blue pediment that we saw, the main entry. And as you can see, the gatekeeping is done in the same way with the vestibule control before anybody gets into the area. And then pre-K at this end of the building and kindergarten up the other end. And special educational needs are also addressed here. Even a conference room for IEPs and so forth. This is that other entry that went out to the two of the play areas. And celebrating sense of place is very important for any school, and we looked at the opportunity to perhaps make the floor of the main entry a map of Wareham that help orient kids to their town, understand how their town works, and do as much as we can in that area to celebrate the town. And that ties together some very critical parts of the building. The stair brings people up to that Innovation Hub, which is this big red piece up here. A very special piece, one can think of it as sort of the heart of the school, or the brain of the school. Next. Here it is where we are at the top of the stairs, so you can see the map below the Innovation Hub in front of us. And different parts of the school will have, this is the link between where the cafeteria and the music to the side link to where first grade would be down the wing. And in the next, that's looking at it from different directions. And these are the ideas, this is how we develop our ideas in sketch form of how the cafeteria might work. This area here is where that partition is, and it can be drawn so two different size areas can be utilized at different times of the day. The whole idea is that the way we used to always imagine our schools is that we have a cafeteria and that's where the kids would eat. And then the rest of the day, for the most part, it was empty. It's a very large area. Designing it this way sort of enhances its ability to serve as a learning area throughout the entire day. Next slide. And here's the gymnasium. Again, looking at ways to sort of celebrate physical activity. And there's a full-size gym too. And these are those learning areas that I talked about earlier, getting away from the old idea of just a hallway to an idea where kids can come out of their classrooms, sort of pull-out areas that special activities can take place, and they can become maker spaces and other things that are age appropriate as they move up. So one can really imagine, as one moves from the first grade to the fourth grade, how the character of those spaces is going to change, and keeping accessibility. And now, I think it's your turn, Chad.
All right, thank you, Dennis. So Cashflow, Dennis gets to talk about the exciting stuff, and I get the budget, of course. The red bars here are what's actually been spent to date. The lines are cumulative lines, so the bars are represented, that's a monthly cash flow draw or projection. The blue bar is a projection, the green bar is an MSBA reimbursement, and then the lines correspond to the bar colors. So that top gray line that you see is the total project budget of $90.4 million. The green bar is the projected MSBA reimbursement, and the blue bar is Wareham's district share at any given time during the project. So we'll update this on a month-to-month basis, so you can see that the red bar right now is trending slightly below the gray bar, which means we're a little bit below our projection. We do have 2 phases of construction complete. The third phase and the final phase of construction is out to bid right now. By this time next week, we'll have received the trade contractor bid results, which account for about half of that construction contract. So we'll have a pretty good sense of where the numbers are trending next week, and then the general contract bids are due on February 27th. With those bids, that's our last bidding component for the construction piece until we get into furnishings and technology. Fortunately, to date, although we're through the demolition, the abatement of the existing school, and the site cut and soil export, we have not utilized any of the construction contingency. So the full $3.6 million construction contingency is still intact, which is incredible for 2 extremely high-risk construction components being behind us now. So that's great news. We can jump over to the next slide. So schedule here, trade contractor bids due February 14th, so they get tabulated, annualized, and then we provide those bids to the general contractors. The general contractors have to decide which trade contractors they're going to use. In total, there are 87 contractors invited to bid on the project. That 87 does not include the non-trades, so there are 3 times that number who are actually bidding the project right now. Bids come in on February 27th, and we'd be looking to quickly turn around a contract, get that executed. They have some permitting requirements at the state level that they need to fulfill, and we'd seek to see them mobilized by the end of March. While that permitting is ongoing, they'll also be developing their foundation shop drawing, so the goal is by the end of March, we're actually ready to shovels on the ground, groundbreaking to get going on foundations, which actually times out very nicely with the weather. Current schedule has us substantially complete in October. That's what is written into the contracts. November and December are currently punch list commissioning, furnishings, technology, and then the move from the existing buildings to the new building would happen over the winter break. So the goal is to have the students returning from winter break into the new space in January of 2022. And that is it on schedule, and happy to answer any questions. I do think that there's actually a virtual fly around that's pretty cool. If you want to.
I'll talk through this a little bit because there's some other things, exciting things that are going on as well.
No music with it.
Yeah, but we should have music. We'll correct that.
Okay.
We'll correct
Someone
that.
starts
We do
singing.
have birds. We do. So, but as you can see, this gives you a real good feeling about how the school is going to look when one approaches it. It's a real challenge to design a building that, by its nature, has to fit so much into it, and yet wants to serve children. And so from the beginning, our effort has been to think of this as a collection of smaller buildings, and that's why I keep on bringing up the words community and neighborhoods. Smaller buildings and other scaling devices that bring it down to a child scale, and by having these smaller communities within it, I think will help a lot and help them understand it. But breaking it up just by using the bricks in different ways, just two different color bricks, but using them in different ways, also helps break it up. When we first were looking at it, we had a lot of different brick colors, and the committee rightfully kind of pulled the reins in on us a little bit and calmed it down. And it looks really quite good. I would like to mention at this time as well that, you know, building a school is an incredible learning opportunity that only happens in a community once every 50 years if they're lucky. Sometimes it's only once every 100 years. And understanding that, Mount Vernon Group, working with our consultant Matthew Cuss, has a program that we're bringing here to Wareham to get high school kids involved in understanding the building process, not just understanding how the building goes together, but learning about all the different people that are involved, whether it be the architect and project manager, but also the contractors, subcontractors, people in the field. And with Matt Cuss, we, as the building gets into construction, we are developing with the high school a shadowing program where students will be able to go to the trailer, learn about the process, and I think get some new and bright contractors and architects and project managers out of it, maybe. Another thing that Matt does is develops a program, again with the educators, to get interested students into understanding their place in time and their building in time by using the building project as a springboard to speak to the older people in town about their educational experiences. This is a perfect town for it, a town where there used to be so many small little neighborhood schools. And I think going and speaking to the people at the Council on Aging or wherever might be a really very positive experience for the students. And all of this will be recorded and made a part of the permanent record of the school. So that's, I want to leave it at that.
We're ready for the lights.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. That was great. I'm sure there's a bunch of questions. Who'd like to start? Ms. Rossi.
So I just have a couple of questions based on some of the presentations that you presented. So for when you were going through on the cafetorium and the split between the music, and I saw that obviously it's like chairs that are designed for small kids to eat lunch on. When they are having some sort of a performance that, the band is having their concert, is that what the parents are supposed to be sitting on as the chair, or is there some sort of different type of situation for when it's in auditorium mode?
Excellent question, because we've all, I think, at one point or another experienced sitting on those little chairs. No, we've designed into this, there's specific chair storage areas. So there's really adult-sized chairs for performances and so forth that stack, and they're mobile on carts and things like that.
Great, thank you. So my second question is on the last fly around, you, when looking at the field where it had, a baseball diamond and things like that, it looked like there were basketball and baseball on one field. So I was just curious how that works.
They're not fields. They're paved play areas, and that's kickball. It looks like right. They're paved play areas, and they serve two purposes. During that 20 minutes in the beginning and the end of the school day, they sort of serve the same sort of function that side parking lot at the Deacon's does. It gives a place for parents to queue for pickups, and because it is a paved area. And it could be painted in any number of ways. We just showed it that way because it's helped us and the committee, everybody, to sort of understand scale-wise. Yep. So that's a kickball field, court or whatever. That's a basketball court. That's how it works. But
okay, and then my final question is, I know that there is currently the capacity for the school is
1,020.
1,020. So my question is hypothetically, if, everything moves in with the projected numbers we're expecting, currently, with the next kindergarten class enrollment, we'll be pretty much at that level. So for when, the low housing development that's expected to get put into town at some point, whenever that gets through whatever red tape that's going through on their end, when that gets built and say that there's others and moving into town in capacity, if we're starting off at capacity already, what is the probability for expansion? Is there a way to add, or is it set up where portable classrooms similar to what the schools currently have to take that demand of, overpopulation now? What is the plan that if need be, to house more students when we have them?
It's at a capacity which is at the low end of the design capacity. So you have so many classrooms in there. And so if over time, and if we just think about it as 6 classrooms per grade just for 4 grades, that's 24 classrooms. And if you only added, 2 students per grade, which it has room for even more expansion than that, that's another 48 kids that could fit in there without any problem. And it's also designed so if classrooms ever had to be added, they could be added right where the stairway is.
The 1,020 is the K through 4, and then there's room for another 85 pre-K students.
For pre-K students.
And when the MSBA runs their space utilization numbers, they use a space utilization ratio of 80%. So there's 20% extra
So
capacity
is that
built into
space keeping in, because I know we try to keep our class sizes in a reasonable capacity of what 18 to 20. And is that, you know what I mean, if you add XYZ amount, is that, and you have those particular classes, like when they get to be excessive, hypothetically, with a bigger development and trying to get more attention and more people coming to the town, especially with the draw of a new elementary school, I'm just wanting to make sure that, say there's an influx we didn't expect, that we would be able to accommodate all of those children.
Yep. So one of the major benefits to that preferred solution going back almost 2 years, we had looked at half a dozen or so floor plans that really made it into the final round of selection. One of the major benefits to this one that we have here today is that it has opportunities for another wing to be shot out off the building where you could add classrooms. The other benefit to this one, the pre-kindergarten area where that drop-off was, there's nothing above that upstairs. So if you are absolutely in that position where an extra 2 classrooms helps for 40 whatever students, there is that opportunity to build on that spot too and go vertical.
2 stories, yeah.
Yep.
And the other thing is, because of the way the building is designed and the way it can be utilized with the extras such as art and STEAM and so forth, that unlike most typical elementary schools where one thinks about, except for lunchtime or maybe going off to music or something, that it's pretty much 100% utilization of every room. The utilization number is actually lower than that because kids are going to be going to extras and going to be encouraged to do that, to be moving around the building. So there's a lot of space in that building.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Morgan?
So I have a simple question you can probably explain to me very easily, but my office is actually in Durfee High School, so I'm watching the Durfee project there. And I never saw it stop. And I'm just curious why it just has appeared I go by mine it all the time, and nothing's been happening for like a couple of months or 3 months now.
Yep. So Durfee used a different construction delivery method. They are CM at risk. Suffolk Construction is the contractor there. When it's a CM at risk, you hire that contractor to oversee all phases. In Wareham's case, we put it out as individual lump sum contracts, so we essentially have 3 separate general contractors. We had one that did demo and abatement, another one did site clearing, and then the third is going to build the actual building. The reason that was selected was really twofold. One is cost. The CM at risk delivery method typically comes with around a 15% cost premium to go that route. The other reason is the schedule, the design schedule, the occupancy schedule for this particular building. That stoppage that we have right now in the middle of winter is really a bad time to be building anything anyways. There are substantial additional costs that come from winter conditions, whether you're heating the ground to put foundations in, or tarping in your steel so that you can move on your interior finishes, or whatever it might be. There's a whole host of issues, but yeah, so the 2-month stoppage that we have is planned, and there's a cost benefit to Wareham for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Emily?
Just a simple question. Are there windows in the art rooms? Like,
Yes, actually,
okay.
yes.
Because it kind of looked like it was in like the middle of the school.
No,
so.
it's a very good question, and I work very closely with the art teachers because I'm a former art teacher as well as being an architect. So I take the art rooms real seriously. The idea of the art rooms is this: you never like to have direct light into an art room. Best light is to have north light, but they are in the innovation hub, and they have a glass wall sort of facing the innovation hub, which a short distance away has windows which face south, but allows for very good diffused light to enter the art rooms. Also, those art rooms can be opened up into the innovation hub, so it's wide open. Plus, we will have natural light being brought in from above through tube lights that can be controlled. So we worked with, the art teachers were very happy not to have any direct light in, because you really like to control the light when you're teaching art, but they have full control of it, so it's good. It's a great question.
Anyone else? Ms. Bakayaki?
Well, I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to say, you mentioned that we are able to be at the building committee meetings and we hear from them. But I just want to remind everyone that the building committee meetings are open to the public, and anyone, including school committee members, are always more than welcome to attend. I know we try to make those dates known. I believe the next one is March 10th?
March 2nd, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, good point.
6 o'clock in
6
this
o'clock.
building, so anyone is always welcome to join at those meetings.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you, Dennis, for bringing up the piece about bringing the students in, because I think that's so interesting and a great opportunity for the kids, so.
Yeah, it only happens once every 50 years
Right,
at best, so
you're
you might as well take
so
advantage
I'm
of it.
so
Lucky
glad you
kids.
mentioned that, yeah.
And Dave Arnold has been great. He's opened up his.
At the high school, yeah.
Yeah, he's got his CAD software all hooked into his computer, and they've been working together and working on how to make that happen for our kids, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope to be able to, speak to Dave's classes a few times, show them the actual documents that are going to build this school, and help them try to understand that. And then by whichever ones are selected to go out in the field, they can bring stories back about how these things get implemented.
Right. It's such a great opportunity for them. A lot of those kids probably went to Minot Forest School, and Thank you.
Can you go into some detail on the safety and how improved it is and how modern it is?
We were told it's better than the school in Connecticut. Safer than that.
I know there's cameras looking at cameras and
It's
all
crazy.
that stuff, but if you could just describe it a bit.
Sure. Everything in all aspects of life has been so complicated, but in the design of schools, especially that, and security is one of the prime concerns in the design of schools. We don't try to do it ourselves. We bring in the best possible consultants, and the consultants we have are the consultants that were hired by the state of Connecticut to do the study, the Sandy Hook study, and they pretty much wrote the rules for how school safety works in Connecticut. And I think that you'll find that it's constantly improving. And the thing that we've learned the most about school safety really has to do with communication. It really has to do with time. Time is the single most essential part of school safety. It's understanding who's approaching the school, who gets into the school, where they are in the school, and making sure that first responders can be easily contacted, and that there's a protocol. And so we work with first responders on that protocol with our consultants. I wish I could say that there was a way to guarantee the safety of every child. I don't think anybody could honestly say that. What I can say is that we work our hardest with the best available technology to make the school as safe as possible and make everybody aware of what needs to be done. And, you know, teaching even the parents about how the school works. We've noticed that, but everybody wants the school to be terribly safe, but then, you know, parents will say, geez, I just want to get in there and give my kid their lunch and stuff. So, I mean, we have things, you know, you get into that vestibule, and I'm not sure, I think if we have the drawer in this one.
We do.
Yeah, so when you're at that, we have like a bank drawer. Oh, boy. So if you get, okay, you got a lunch, you know, put it in there. So they don't have to get into the school. So that's, you know,
there are a lot of measures in this building. There's several hundred cameras. The cameras are linked across the entire community, so they can trace a person or a vehicle or whatever it might be.
And they pipe right back to the police station, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
It's all integrated. So
yeah.
Yeah, this, I think PMA has 14 projects in various stages of design and construction, and the security measures in this school are by far above and beyond that of the others.
And bulletproof glass in the right places?
Select areas, yep.
Yes.
And safety glass in other areas.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Can we bring out the picture of the pull-out areas? Now, I'm on the building committee, and I've heard these discussed at length, but I don't think I've ever seen them. I think this is the first picture I've seen, and so this really drove it home.
Did I go by it?
No, right there,
right
yeah.
there.
So now, when we were, you know, advocating for this school and trying to get on the ballot and such, one of the arguments that people would make is like, you know, you're just replacing a building. You know, you can't expect to, you know, education to improve just by changing the bricks and mortar. And I mean, I disagree. I mean, the lighting is awesome. You know, the cooling is going to really be helpful and stuff. But this alone, you have these pull-out sessions here where you can have really targeted learning here, and we don't do that today, right? I mean, we can't. And we couldn't before. And this alone is going to really help, I think, educate our kids. Mm-hmm. That's impressive. And the picture really is great. It's in the hallway. You know, you can see, you know, it's right next to the room, and you come and go, you know.
You can see how the old-fashioned hallway has really dematerialized.
Yeah.
And the streetscape in the neighborhood has taken on a real character.
Yeah. I like it. And can we go to the one with the graphics in the cafeteria? I think keep going. Yeah, right there. And we had kind of a long building committee meeting about these graphics and what should go there and stuff. And it occurred to me, and I don't want to lose this thought, but you guys are familiar with Grumpy, right? Claire's town moderator. Claire's brother Grumpy is the 5K and stuff. And he's got so much pictures of Wareham and the nature and the bogs. And I'm sure we can put something up there that would be so Wareham, you know. And I just don't want to forget that's a great opportunity for that. So yeah, I think you guys did a great job. Does anyone else have any more questions or comments? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll see you March 2nd.
See you March 2nd.
All right, moving on to food service report. Director Russo, sorry.
Quite a compliment, Mill. I'm going to hand out some hard copies you'll be seeing on the screen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to do a quick introduction of Mike, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Whenever you're
I
ready.
just wanted to remind everyone who Mr. Russo is, because he's fairly new to Wareham, and I think it's important that we note, just sort of give a little background. Mike Russo joined our team at the end of July. He has a bachelor's degree in computer science from Boston University, a master's degree in aviation safety and management from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. He's a U.S. Navy veteran who served 25 years as a naval aviator before retiring and moving into the private sector as manager with Amazon, and thank you for your service. Mike was with Amazon in the warehousing, distribution, and customer fulfillment division for 3 years and had been promoted up the ranks to operation manager before he interviewed with us and became our new food services director. Mike's prior experiences have transferred readily to the food service department. He has quickly established positive working relationships with all stakeholders. So thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna rethink my life now.
Right? I know. It's crazy.
Well, thank you for the good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to give you this presentation. What I'm going to be going over is the meal participation rates at the various schools this school year. As you all know, breakfast and lunch are free to all students in Wareham Public Schools. However, participation rates are always a challenge, and one of my focus areas has been, since I've been hired, has been to drive the participation rates, do everything we can to increase participation, and that's what we'll be going over. So starting with Deacon's Elementary, what you're seeing on the far left in red is September of this year. And let me just get up and point here. So here we have breakfast, and on all these slides, this is breakfast, this is lunch, and it goes September, October, November, December, January. And I wouldn't focus on any specific month, but more so on the trend. And so you see that we are working on driving the participation rates up, and for the month of January, you can see at Deacon's we had better than 80% participation in breakfast and right at 70% for lunch. Mine at Forest, similarly, we've been having a steady increase in the trend for participation for both breakfast and lunch. Similar with Wareham Middle, you do see a little dip again from month to month. Sometimes there are mitigating factors, but the overall trend is to try to get the rates up. And you can see on the lunch side, especially, there's a gradual increase month after month, and that is where we are focusing more for both for Minot and Wareham Middle. We're focusing on the lunch rates. Our breakfast rates are actually pretty fantastic. They're in the upper 90s for participation, and so we're pretty happy with that. For Wareham High, similarly, you can see that we started out the year with our breakfast participation rates in the low 40%, and it's gone up month after month. And same thing for the lunch. Well, actually, it dipped down in the last month, and I will say that the reason for that, as I said, month to month, there's mitigating factors. Last month, there were 4 days of midterms, and the students were leaving. Most of the students, even though lunch was available, most of the students chose to leave as soon as they took the midterms, and that drove our participation rates down. I will be covering in near the end some of the initiatives that we're doing to try to push up the rates. So you might ask, okay, that looks okay for this year. How does it compare to previous years? So what I did is I went back for the last 3 Septembers, so this year and the 2 previous school years. And if you look, what you're seeing on the next set of slides is Deacon's, Minot, Wareham Middle, and Wareham High. And then for Deacon's, you're seeing breakfast, and this is right here for the month of September. You're seeing September of 17, 18, and 19, and then lunch for 17, 18, 19. So that's kind of what you'll be seeing over the next few slides. We'll go over and just show you how it compares month to month. What you can see most significantly is at Minot Forest and Wareham Middle that the breakfast participation rates are much higher. A couple years, up until last school year, the model was there was breakfast in the cafeteria and also breakfast given out in the hallways at carts that was given out. Last year was when we started with breakfast in the classroom. And there's an actual state mandate called breakfast after the bell that we are complying with, where we're serving breakfast in the classrooms. And with that enacted, and with the cooperation of the principal, the administrative staff, principals, and the teaching staff at both Minot and at Wareham Middle, we've had fantastic participation rates for all the students. One of the things that is available is you're allowed to have share tables. So if a student takes a breakfast and decides that they don't want a breakfast, one of those items, they can go ahead and put it on a share table so that another student can take it. They can even, if the food is something that does not need to be refrigerated, they can actually take that unopened item, and if they want, put it in their bag, they could take it home or what have you. So one of the things we're encouraging is for the students to, if they don't eat the entire breakfast, to go ahead and share or take the items home to eat later. And with that being the case, the only thing that might come back to us usually is milk, because that's perishable. But everything else is something that they can go ahead and eat then or eat later. And that's one of the things that the state and the USDA are pushing very much for, is to try to get children to, if they don't eat it right then and there, give them the opportunity, but then if they don't eat it, give them the opportunity to take that food and eat it at a later time. Again, you'll see also a positive trend for, if I can point out specifically for Wareham High, it's been doing pretty well compared with previous years. Same thing for December and for January. So we're doing better overall this year than in previous years. And we have several things that we've been trying to do in order to make that happen. We've been receiving support from outside organizations, and I'll go over a couple of those right now. So Project Bread is a nonprofit organization that, in partnership with DESI, sponsors Breakfast After the Bell. And we have received a grant just this past month in January for $3,826 for Wareham High and Deacon's Elementary towards trying to improve the meals and improve the breakfast participation rates. Also, they've assisted us with, you see that, that flyer on the right, they gave us 700 of those glossy flyers that we sent home with all the students during the school year to try to make sure all that the parents were aware, especially the pre-K parents, that it is a free breakfast, free lunch, and just in case they weren't aware of that, so that they could encourage their children to take advantage. Next slide, please. New England Dairy gave us a grant for $1,574, and we used it to buy a particular item that they recommended, which is called a Choco Lady, but it's a hot chocolate milk dispenser. And we actually had the kickoff event for this yesterday, and I want to call out Indiana Troop was very active in helping us and in participation in the kickoff event. And so with that hot chocolate milk, it's not hot cocoa, it's hot chocolate, so it's in accordance with USDA guidelines, and we can serve it for breakfast. What we're trying to do is entice students that might not go to the cafeteria for breakfast. A lot of students come in with their Dunkin' Donuts meal breakfast items, and they'll actually go and sit in the cafeteria and drink, I assume, a coffee, and eat an item in the high school cafeteria rather than taking advantage of the free food. So this is one of the things that we're going to try to do to try to help entice the students to take advantage of the free breakfast. Also, DESI has just awarded us last month two $20,000 grants, both at Wareham Middle and Wareham High. We have serving counters that are inoperative, either partially or fully. We have cold ones that we actually put ice in order to keep them chilled, to be able to put the food in there. And so we've been getting by with them. But with these grants, we'll be able to buy new equipment so that we're better able to serve our students in those schools. And thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll open up to questions. Who's got questions? Ms. Rossi.
So a couple questions just looking at the numbers, and I'm guessing that the reasons that the breakfast in the elementary schools and the middle school seem to be a lot higher than the lunches, and I'm assuming that that might be in part of a lot of kids bringing a lunch from home, possibly. My other question is, in regards to food allergies, do you believe that a large significance of the number of them not participating are due to an intolerance or an allergy? And do we have, for all grade levels, options for, kids that do have a food allergy or an intolerance to things, so that they are able to participate more in the school numbers as opposed to bringing them from home?
Sure. So on the first part with the, as far as the lower or the higher rate for breakfast, so we're actually delivering the meals to the classroom. And I'm going to answer both questions kind of together. If any student has an allergy or any medical requirement, dietary requirement, it goes through the school nurse, and then it gets entered into our point of sale system. So we're alerted that, okay, this child is allergic to gluten or to lactose. So when we deliver the meals to those classrooms, we specifically have those items for those children that prevent them from having any allergic reaction. So we have Lactaid for any child who's lactose intolerant. It's a type of milk without lactose in it. And we have gluten-free items as well. So we have those not only in what we deliver to the classrooms, we also have those at lunch as well. If we have a student who has any type of other dietary restrictions, not only at Minot or Wareham Middle, but at the other schools as well, we will adjust to accommodate them. An example is you might have a student that has a special need where the texture of the food needs to be adjusted. They need the food to be blended, or they need it made cut a certain way or whatever. We can go ahead and do that. So as long as we have that goes through the proper channels, we can go ahead and meet those dietary restrictions and make sure that we're providing a free, nutritious meal to every child.
Okay, so my other question is, I have a son at the high school, and I ask daily what he had for lunch, which he's eaten the same thing every day for lunch since elementary school, so that's never going to change, but he orders his lunch every day. But for breakfast, a lot of times, if their bus is running a few minutes late, they don't have time at that. Is it only served in the high school in the cafeteria?
No.
Because the two children that are staying with me, that are in my household, do not get breakfast at the high school because they just don't have the time to get there. By the time the bus is there, getting to the cafeteria and making it to their first class on time.
Right.
So with the participation numbers in the high school seem to be flip-flopped, where the breakfast numbers are lower.
Right.
And I'm wondering if other students have similar issues to my sons, where they're not able to get to the cafeteria in time due to possible bus conflicts.
Sure.
And how, if the breakfast after the bell, does that apply to the high school as well?
Yes.
Where meals are delivered to the classroom?
Well, the meals,
That would be hard to do at the high
no, so we don't deliver, we're still under the breakfast after the bell mandate. But all that really requires is that the student have the opportunity to take the food that we provide with them into the classroom, and then they can eat it in the classroom for a certain period of time. Excellent point about the cafeteria, and we purchased just a few months ago a new food cart, and we have that set up in the foyer of the high school, in the front foyer. So students come up and they can get their breakfast items and go from there, and take that with them to their homeroom or wherever they're going. and eat them there if they're in a rush. So that is available. I would say ask them to, if they have time, to swing by the front of the school and see where the food cart is and take advantage of it. We have talked about looking and seeing if if there needs to be a second location. And it's actually a conversation I've had with Principal Palladino about, and we are going to be testing out putting up on the second floor, just before the beginning of class, putting a food cart as well with the breakfast items, so that students have even more opportunity. If they miss it in the front foyer, there's a second cart that they can take advantage of. But right now they have the cafeteria and they have that food cart at the front of the school.
Thank you.
I think Ms. Roberge, did you have something you wanted to chime in?
Yeah, the cart is it's right in the foyer, and I see kids all the time, maybe running late. They come in right for the front entrance, and they just grab and they go up to class. It's really easy and accessible, so that's really good.
Yeah, thank you. That's we consider it a win-win. The benefit of the cafeteria is there are hot food choices there. The breakfast cart doesn't have hot food, but it still has the whole grain, the milk, the fruit, vegetable, etc. So they still have nutritious choices, and they can take it right to the classroom with them. The advantage of the cafeteria, though, is if they want something hot, that is there. And now we're going to have the chocolate milk there as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Spear.
Is the choice of food for each grade level, breakfast, the same?
No. For Deacon's Elementary, they published their own menu for their breakfast items. Wareham Middle and Wareham High normally use the same menu, and for mine, it also will be a little bit individualized. Each cafeteria manager generates a menu a month prior, and they send them to me, and I review them, and then we go ahead and post them, and we make sure that we comply with the meal plan and such. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
Yes? Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Roberge, did you have more?
Yeah, I noticed that milk and juice was the only beverage available for breakfast at the high school recently. Is water no longer an option?
Water is an option, but technically it's not supposed to be. I basically have spoken with DESI and gotten their permission to phase in us being in compliance, but we are not supposed to offer an alternative to milk for breakfast, because the USDA, or a milk alternate such as soy milk or what have you, the USDA basically feels that every child should be drinking milk. And our components, the 5 components are a liquid milk, a whole grain, a fruit, a vegetable, and a meat or meat alternate. Nowhere in there is water. And so we have already completely phased out at all the schools except the high school. We have phased out offering water, free water, free bottled water as part of the serving line. At the high school, we are still offering it, but by the end of the school year, we're going to have to stop doing that.
No.
And now, what DESI and what speaking with the DESI line is, hey, we have these great water fountains in the cafeterias, and they're filtered water, and everybody's welcome to bring their water bottle and fill it up for this free filtered water, and they can do that. But or we are allowed to sell water a la carte, and we do that as well. But we cannot offer free water at the same time as milk.
Yep. Okay.
Anyone else? Ms. Bakuyaki?
I'm so intrigued by the hot chocolate milk dispenser. I'll have to make a visit. My question about the participation rates. Does our participation in the free breakfast and lunch program is it related to our participation rate? Do you have to keep a certain rate of participation?
No. There is no minimum participation rate that we have to maintain. However, in order to maintain a viable operation, the more meals, the more breakfasts, the more lunches that you serve, that'll help offset your overhead, the salaries, the repairs, et cetera, that you have to pay. So we are trying to increase our participation to make sure that we have a viable operation. DESI, now having said that, DESI does notice when you don't have good participation rates. And we have been specifically for Deaconess Elementary and Wareham High, that's why we're getting the grant from Project Bread. Basically, it's almost like Desi said, hey, can you go take a look and help them out a little bit and offer them some guidance and such. And so they've been very helpful and very nice, and they've asked us what we need. They're giving us some money for some various things. And so when you do have a lower participation rate, it does get noticed, but there is not a minimum requirement.
Okay. And the program that allows you to offer free breakfast and lunch, is that a year-to-year thing? Is that?
So that's community eligibility provision, and it's a 4-year, well, it's a little more complicated than that, but the bottom line is that we are right now in year 3 of a 4-year commitment or agreement. Now, it'll carry us through this school year and next school year under our current reimbursement rate with CEP. Each year, DESI takes a look at how many of your students that are enrolled in your schools, how many of them qualify for free lunch and for reduced lunch, but mostly for free lunch. And you have to meet that threshold in order to qualify to be in CEP. Our authorized level that we basically set the baseline at a couple years ago was 54% of our students in Wareham Public Schools qualified for free or reduced lunch, mostly free. We are actually not, the town has become a little more prosperous, and we're actually a little bit under that right now. We're closer to like 49% free plus reduced. But we are going to have to keep an eye on our rates, and every April, DESI gives you the opportunity to re-baseline for the next 4 years. So this April, I will upload to DESI our currently enrolled students. They will take a look at all of those students, and they will identify, they'll certify through their records who is qualified for free or reduced lunches, and they'll tell us what percentage we're at. And they'll say, would you like to stay with your current CEP plan, or would you like to re-baseline for another 4 years? And we'll have to take a look and see what's more advantageous at that time.
Okay. So gone are the days of families filling out the paperwork to determine
Yes.
calculation?
Yes.
Okay.
Every month I go to Wareham is enrolled in what's called we're part of the South Shore Collaborative. And it's 17 school districts that are all together, and we increase our buying power, purchasing power from various vendors and such. And so I get to go to these meetings, and I also go to DESI trainings. And everybody's talking about all the problems that they have with the applications, and DESI's beating them up about this and about that and such. And we don't have to worry about any of that while we're in CEP.
Great.
Makes my job, I can focus on other things rather than hunting people down to try to make sure that they properly signed their applications.
Right. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So my other question was, I just thought, so at the end, every student has a PIN number that when they go through the lunch line, we can see
Yes.
what they get and how, if they get breakfast. Do they do that for the breakfast as well? They use their student number?
Yes.
Okay, so if you have now every student's assigned a number, and you guys, I'm sure at the end of the year, will be able to track participation-wise which students did not participate, whether it was breakfast or lunch, correct, based on the number? You can pinpoint a student?
I think that would be possible, but that's not how we do it. We don't focus in on specific students.
Well,
We
my
just
only
do-
question was to set, almost like have a directive at the end of each year to figure out why certain students were not participating. To like reach out to those parents and say, we noticed that your student didn't do lunch or breakfast this year. Do you have a concern? Is there an allergy? Is there something that we don't know? Or do you just like to make breakfast and lunch at home?
Yeah.
So that for your participation numbers, you could know. And if that's the case, where a parent would put something out there, that they almost like, would they be able to create sort of a system exemption so that an issue like that wouldn't count against participation? Because I'm sure that they're looking at participation on the population as a whole.
Right.
And not as, okay, well, these people opted out. Because then I don't think that should count against the participation if you're trying to fine tune numbers and get things to run strategically, to count kids that would never actually participate in breakfast or lunch for, whatever the reason. I mean, it could be like a religious reason. They can't eat certain things, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Whatever that is, but to be able to sort of not necessarily call them up by name publicly, but say, okay, these are the specific family, and just maybe address them and say, hey, we noticed that you guys don't participate in lunch. Is there a particular reason? Maybe I never get flyers home from my kid in middle school, anything. They got lost in the backpack, left in the locker at the end of the year. I got everything from September. So, sometimes a flyer home, like the lovely ones from Project Bread, don't always make it home. And I know it seems to be widely publicized that we do have free lunch and breakfast for all of students, but if it's someone new to the town, they might not have known and are sending their kids. So I think maybe just almost like a survey, if you're having on those lower participation segments, to kind of pinpoint where the issue is instead of just guessing.
That is a fantastic idea. I appreciate it. I will do that, yes. If I go look and see, hey, this student has not eaten a single lunch all year long, yes, that to communicate with them and find out why in a non-attributional way, just, hey, just notice this, what can we do to entice you, or is there some reason that we need to be aware of to help you eat here? So I will do that. Thank you. With regards to if they have any type of, DESI doesn't allow you to make any exemptions. So basically, the student body is the student body, and you have to, whatever their issues, that if they have an issue with what you're serving, then you need to do your best to accommodate them in order to try to make sure that they're eating the USDA nutritional meals. So they won't allow us to do any type of exclusion.
Okay, thank you.
I just like to, I think it's interesting, the hot chocolate milk, is you doing that to get kids to drink more milk, right?
Well, that's why we got the funding from New England Dairy Council, because they want the kids to drink more milk.
I'm going to tell you, you probably know it works, right? Because I know at home, sometimes the milk goes bad. We don't drink enough of it, right? But sure enough, if we remember to get the Ovaltine at the store, my son plows through it, and there's nothing left, So it works.
It's too early to tell right now, but so far it's been very popular. So this morning was the first morning where we had it for breakfast. We had the kickoff events yesterday, but today was the first morning, and it got sold, or sold's the wrong word, but it got used up.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great. I think you said the first time you were here, you had introduced yourself, and you said, my first meeting, and I'm raising prices, right?
Yes.
So this is much more welcome, and it was a great presentation, and I thank you for coming. Anyone else have anything else for Director?
Thank you very much.
Russo? Thank you. Okay, moving on to acceptance of gifts.
Okay. I recommend the acceptance of the following gifts. $4,000 from DECA Boosters Club to Wareham High School DECA to offset cost for state and national competitions. Do I read all of them? Do you accept them as a total? 3.
Oh, yeah, they can do all 3.
Okay. A guitar to the Minot Forest Music Program from Ellie Sullivan of Onset on behalf of her son, a professional musician. And undergarments to the Minot Forest and John W. Deacus School Nurses Office from the Women's Society of Christian Services.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Oh, just a big, huge thank you, as always.
Right?
Yeah. All right, with that, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0-0. On to the Student Opportunity Act. Dr. Schwam.
Ooh. See if he has it for me. He has it in PDF. Okay. So are you familiar with the Student Opportunity Act? All right. I'm just going to go through, I went to the commissioner's opening of the Student Opportunity Act and have since read the various different information, but basically they recalculated the Chapter 70 formula to serve students with complex learning requirements, gaps in academic experience, and language acquisition proficiency. It was found that the Commonwealth's Chapter 70 funding formula was underfunded by at least $1 billion. This is a quote, "To provide an education to all of our students, including those in poverty, that is both adequate and fair." So there was an analysis done by this particular group from Hendrick from 2018, and this is what they found was the problem with the formula. Chapter 70 is calculated, so the aid is calculation begins with each district's Chapter 70 amount. The difference between each district's foundation budget and its required contribution equals the foundation aid. And this is what we have received from Chapter 70 the last 3 years. And then the difference additionally, so there's on the website, you go on and it gives you the amount for Chapter 70, and then it allocates the differences in the amounts. And as you can see, we're making less money overall than last year. How it worked was that 85% of the money went to 35 schools. And whatever was left was divvied out to other places.
There are 35 districts.
Yes.
Yeah.
35 districts. So 85% went to 35 districts.
And not to interrupt, but during the legislative breakfast, they brought that point up. I mean, 35 towns did really well, and the rest of us not so much. The rest of us all got, I think, $35 per student.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the commissioner presented this information on January 23rd. And basically, he said they're providing significant infusion of new funds, with every district receiving at least some increase in Chapter 70. The formula provides 35 districts with 85% of the new Chapter 70 money. In an effort to close persistent achievement gaps, all districts are required to submit 3-year evidence-based plans to the commissioner by law. And they're due April 1st by midnight, period. The plan. And the plan has to include everyone in the district. So the plan goes, and we participate. We are required to participate in the plan, right? So just kind of think about that for a moment. And we haven't even received the templates yet from them. We have an overview, and I've created a document to at least begin the process. But they want us to reach everyone. It's much more complicated than what you might think. We'll do what we can, and we'll get it to them April 1st. But I just want to explain that it's a little crazy.
And I think, excuse me, I think Joyce and I had asked about this a while ago. Like, what are we going to do? And well, let's wait till we get some direction. And now we got direction in no time.
Right, but we have a plan.
Okay.
So we'll make it happen. But
Right.
Yeah.
Can I-
Oh, that wasn't a criticism
No,
of
I
you
know.
at all.
No, I get it.
Yeah,
No, I get it.
Jeez.
It's just, you're right. It's crazy. It feels a little crazy, but.
Can I ask a question at this? Just
No, no.
So this plan that you have to submit, it's how you're going to spend, if the way I understood it, please correct me if I'm wrong, how are you going to spend the additional money?
$72,000 over 3 years, basically.
Just that additional.
Correct. At first, I thought they were looking at the total Chapter 70. Like, when I left the commissioner and realized he said anyone who is offered more than $1.5 million in their Chapter 70 funds. And I thought, we're going to have to do the long form for $72,000. You know what I mean? I was like a little bit upset by that. But then when I got the latest news, it was the 1.5 over the 3-year period of time. So if you were given more than $1.5 million over that 3 years, then you have to do the long form. If it's less than that, you do the short form. So we're short form people, which is good news, right? So basically, there are 4 statutory evidence-based plans. It has to have an evidence-based practice, meaningful, engaged stakeholders, parents in the community, resource allocation plan, and outcome metrics. So this is the plan. Or this is the beginning. So January, this is the plan that they've put out. And then we'll look at our plan. So January 22nd, Governor Baker releases the House 2 budget, plan template, and guidance documents released to districts. That has not happened. But that was part of the plan at one point. We were supposed to get them in January. In February, district worked with local stakeholders to develop plans. We just got a possible plan to look at last week. DESE supports with technical assistance. March, school committee votes on the plan prior to sending to DESE. So what I'm hoping to do is have a draft plan for the school committee on March 12th. Present it to the school committee. That way you'll have between the 12th and the date of March 26th, when the vote is due, to tease out whatever is questionable at that time.
What I find kind of interesting is the MASC is putting on a 70 minutes on Chapter 70 learning session, Monday, March 9th. So 3 days before this at 6:30 at Holbrook High School. So I think for us to even understand, like, maybe how we're supposed to review your plan, I'm gonna attempt to go to this, because Holbrook's my hometown, so I know how to get there. But I think it's seeing the date, that the timeline, that's why I went and looked at the MASC website. So 3 days before, we're gonna get possibly shown what our role in this is, and then we have to review it 3 days later. That's just a very interesting timeline.
Right, so, and then the plans are due by midnight, April 1st, uploaded to the department. And then DESE will inform us in May and June of whether we have to amend the plan. So it's tight. And so today, on this date, we're doing kind of the overview of what this is about, right? I met with administrators this morning with and sent them on a Google Drive a draft of a beginning of a document. And I can share that a little bit of that, the idea around how we'll focus right now and what I shared with them. And I'm going to ask them to give feedback. Then they need to provide their plan to their faculty and their school councils and students where applicable. So high school students, middle school students, or anyone that they feel will want to contribute to it would be great. We'll create the final plan to send to principals and directors after I've received all of that feedback from from each of the schools. I'll grab that and edit and add or delete or whatever's requested. And then present the plan to all of you on March 12th that we've got so far. And then the completed plan on the 26th, and then to send to DESE. So the school committee can, obviously you'll ask any clarifying questions. inform your constituents. So as much information as we can do and as much as you agree with this as we move along, it will be really important for you to actively also talk to the people that voted for you so that they understand, because we'll do everything we can inside to get things done. Obviously read the plan and make any suggestions, respond to us. So when I might send it to you off meeting time so that you can take a look at it and then get back to us with any feedback that you might have or any questions that you might have. Because the timeline is so tight, we really have to just pay attention, I guess, at this point. And I want to make sure that what we represent is a collaborative plan. I don't want it to be just, it'd work much nicer if it's very collaborative as much as possible. And then you'll vote. So before we go on to further questions, I just wanted to, I've been thinking about this since I went on the 23rd, and then I received the documents, and I'm thinking about the things that we're doing in the district, and I'm thinking about $72,000, right? And so one of the things that we were thinking about that we may have to cut were some of the teaching assistants that we had hired at DECUS intentionally that are supporting all of the work that we're doing for the early literacy that's making a significant difference in our kids' lives, at least with the data that I've collected thus far. So I have data from a cohort from February of 2017 when we started that work, and then where those kids are now, just a kind of overview of their proficiency rating through FAST, I didn't dig into the DRAs and the FMPs and all that other stuff, but just looking at the overview. And at this point, our third graders are 75% proficient. And that's completely turned it around from the beginning of time with the work that they've been doing. And so I can at least see that how we've been maneuvering and the neurological approach to helping kids understand how their brain works, and then connecting that to literacy, has strengthened our literacy and our math and behavior and special education referral rates. So there's been some, and that was by accident, that wasn't intended necessarily, but what we've seen is a shift in the presentation and students' engagement in school life since we began the work. So I thought, well, we could just really, we have the data, it's vetted data, a lot of schools don't collect data the way that we do. It's hard to collect data the way that we do with little kids. It's really difficult, but we found, we just do it. And having all of that information sort of answers all of their questions in a way that I think they would approve it because we've taken all of those steps in the plan that they're asking for. Mm-hmm. And we're not making something up. And it allows us to continue to do something that we believe is still working. So I presented that to the principals today. Like I said, I sent them the shared document. I filled out the template. It's not the official template, but I filled out what they've given me, right? So that at least we have a starting point. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the direction. They seem to be on board with that. I'll get more feedback from them as we carry on. But we've done things like, I don't know if you've heard of the Red Bucket Brigade, but parents are trained. We had 2 teachers. They have red buckets with all the stuff they need in each classroom for all the different things that we're doing. Mm-hmm. And during Meet the Teacher Night, they said, come and volunteer and we'll train and so on and so forth. And they have these red buckets in all the classrooms, so people just come in and they know what to do. They pick up that bucket, they head to the station where whatever it is that they're doing. I mean, they were doing some really creative, interesting things. So I was able to add that in as a parent component, volunteer component for it. And then, of course, all the other things that are happening at the schools. There's quite a lot of parent participation with the little ones normally anyway. But that's what we were thinking about. So that's where we are. Any questions?
Questions? So if I heard you correctly, I think that's a great start. I'm glad that you want to keep the paras. You know, I kind of fought for them too. Like,
Yes,
I
you
wanted
did,
these. I didn't want to lose these paras. You know, I mean, the data tells us this is what works. So let's
keep
do
doing
it. You know, but is your recommendation pretty much like mostly are all Deacon's centric?
Yes.
Okay.
At this point, and the reason, and I explained it to the principals, it's hard if you're a high school principal. You know, I guess if it was $1 million, it would be different, right?
Yeah.
But it's not a lot of money. And so what's very difficult to do is project out 5 years from now. Because I keep saying we have to find the root cause of the problem. What is the problem? And if we can get to that, if we can, and I think that just as an FYI, the Title I National Conference this year is about neurological development. I mean, that's kind of amazing, right? So there's a lot going on in that department, and we started this, and it seemed, you know, and I'm watching because I want to make sure whatever that we're doing, we're helping our children. But I think if you project out, we see these third graders, they're going to fourth, and then they're going to fifth, and then the next, all the groups coming up subsequent to this. There's a change, there's a shift happening, and it's hard for them to imagine it, but if we don't get it there, if we don't get to the root cause and fix the problem at that level, then I'm afraid, you know, I don't know that it'll help if we put it 72,000 somewhere else.
No, you're right. And that shift, I don't know what's going on. Excuse me. I've been saying it's systemic in a good way, you know. And I look forward to MCAS. I look forward to, you know, I want to see it, you know. And yeah, I mean, I think that is a great use of that money, you know. Now, how binding is it? I mean, we're doing this whole exercise, and what happens if we don't follow the plan? You know, what happens?
Well, that's a good question. I thought the same thing. I'm following the rules reluctantly because I don't like rules, but I'm following them reluctantly, and I'll do the plan. I think we're pretty solid overall with how we go about doing things and then how we collect the data to see, are we doing it or aren't we? You know, I think we have good systems in place. So I'm very grateful for that, but I would think it would be difficult for them to argue it. I mean, I don't think they're going to take the $72,000 away.
No,
right?
No,
and it's a new rule. I've never had to do a plan for any Chapter 70 money ever before. We already have a strategic plan. I don't know why they want another plan. But I guess if they're giving money, the legislators decided that they needed a way to decide if we're doing the right thing, because they obviously know what's best for us.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Any more questions or comments? Ms. Bakayaki?
I don't have a question, but I did listen to a budget presentation by the town administrator, once at the finance committee meeting and once at the selectmen's meeting last week. And he goes into a lot of detail. And, you know, we're talking about 72,000. His projection of the increase of aid to the schools from the state was 26,000. That was the net. Now, it's a complicated calculation that I will not pretend to understand, but obviously he does. And yeah, that was what he said. After all of that, that was the net that would come to Wareham. You know, it has to do with lots of parts of the, for instance, the charter school contribution, they said they were going to fund that 100%, and they're not. But one bright spot that I have seen in all of this is that the school choice tuition for Wareham, the tuition going out went down, and the tuition coming in went up.
It did.
For the first time in a long time.
Yep.
Yeah.
To the net, I mean, like $40,000, $50,000. So that's good news.
Yeah. No.
And we'll see about other monies, like circuit breaker and choice, and you know, there are other Title I. Like, I'm not sure how that will be affected. I hope I hope that because we lost a significant amount of money last year in Title II, which affects you because Title I and II are connected. So, you know, you have to sort of because you're trying to save positions, because all of our kids need that level of support. So we'll see how it goes when it all flushes out, but.
All right, so, all right, we'll move on. Thank you. That was good. That was really good. So on to the vote on article for April town meeting warrant, transfer of unused balances.
In order to meet the submission deadline for articles in the April town meeting warrant, I submitted an article, I think that was Dr. Shaver who had submitted an article? Yeah. Okay. To approve the transfer of $40,930.44 to one account to be used for HVAC and building repairs at the high and middle schools. These funds came from previous articles with remaining balances. I believe that was probably the Deacon's boiler and, remember that?
They're listed here.
Okay, good, you've got them, excellent. I would ask the committee to vote approval of the article.
So moved. Oh, you have to call it.
That's fine, but all right, so you all have it. Do you have it there that you can put up on the screen? On the computer?
I don't know if Chris did it.
Aha.
Oh, yay.
You make it big so that Bob can zoom in on it.
Nice. How's that?
We'll try to get the whole thing, the thing above. All right, there we go. Yeah.
Good.
Everyone's all about the title these days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's right.
Anyway, so you have this in your packet, obviously. You read it. It's pretty straightforward. I guess I'll take a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second it.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0-0. Thank you. Report of the Assistant Superintendent.
Approval of bill and payroll warrants under MGL Chapter 41, Section 56. Committee must approve bills or payment warrants by majority vote. Payroll week ending February 1st, 2020, $980,935.08. Should I just read them all?
Yeah, I think she usually reads them all.
Okay. Payroll week ending February 8th, 2020, $143,014.58. Payroll week ending January 25th, 2020, $138,266.12. Bill warrant, January 30th, 2020, is that $3,692.32 and $1,875. Bill warrant on February 6th, 2020, $171,175.79. That's the Minot project. Bill warrant, February 6th, 2020, $3,692,032 and $172,745.25. And bill warrant, February 13th, 2020, $160,361.48.
I just want to
Ms.
make a
Rossi?
correction. That was $3,692.32,
Oh, yeah.
not $3 million.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
Sorry, thank you. Sorry,
I would have remembered signing that one.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
3 million, wait.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Good catch.
Yes, thank you.
The thing is, well, we approve it, but it's really already been paid. But so do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second it.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0-0. Still you.
This,
Facilities, yes.
okay. Use of facility waiver of fees. Chair Flaherty for a report on the fee waiver granted to Community Youth Empowerment after consulting with him. The organization sent a request to waive the building use fee. CYE is not a nonprofit or for-profit organization, but a group comprised of 7 former Wareham students who volunteered to lead discussions and workshops. They are putting on an alumni basketball game as a fundraising event. Number 5 under the facilities policy allows the superintendent or designee to waive the fee. Instead of private group fee, CYE was charged as a non-profit $20 rental for Wareham High School gym, $20 application fee, and any custodial services for the Saturday event.
All All right, there's no need to vote. I did have a discussion with the superintendent about this, and we went over the policy, and she does have this discretion, and I agreed it was a, for what it's worth, I did think it was a well, you know, it warranted that exception. I went to that alumni game and actually had some correspondence, believe it or not. Darian Fernandez was the one that was, you know, spearheading it, so I was happy that was able to happen. All right, so we're on the report of the assistant superintendent. We did approval of bills, we did the use of facilities, waiver of fees. And again, she did, I just wanted it to be known to the committee what was going on. I didn't, so that everybody knew. And now we're on to the report of the school committee, but now we're waiting for.
Deanna.
She's not.
She said, we said around 9.
Yeah, we can keep going then. Yeah, all right. All right, so report of the school committee, recommendations, policies review committee.
Okay, so first one is the graduation requirements, and I'm actually going to ask the committee if we could table it until I get more information. One of the things that I had questioned, and Ms. Rossi also had questioned, was a statement that says, for inclusion in class rank, a student must have spent a minimum of 4 high school semesters in Wareham Public School system. We questioned it because, for example, a very good example right now that just happened is Sacred Heart High School is closing. So then you have all these students, not, you know, a few anyways, that might return because of that and be seniors. So Dr. Shaverhood made the statement, well, we could put in an exception may be made by vote of the school committee, and I left the meeting thinking, yeah, okay. But then I thought about it more, thinking about special ed students, and no, I don't know if it's something I actually learned this year at my job, that students who attend a collaborative have every right to be in school rank, to be in the class rank. So I did question more about, well, what, you know, especially if it's a special ed student that comes in, you know, later into the high school, is it a civil rights issue? So I actually emailed the state, civil rights, and they said I really should go back to DESE, but their consensus was it would be a violation. So I want to wait to hear more from DESE about it.
All right, so you wanted to.
Schedule it for the next policy sub. Do you think that you should invite Scott or?
Yeah, probably, I should.
So hold on, you want to table that?
Yeah.
But so let's take a motion to table it, but to a date certain. So like, when do you want to bring it back to this committee?
Well, after the next policy review, which would be March
beginning
2nd or something. Yeah.
So what's the next?
March 2nd is a Monday.
What's the next school committee meeting?
The 12th.
All right, so take a motion to table the graduation requirements policy to the March 12th meeting of the school committee.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Ms. Rossi, do you have a question or
No,
something?
I was just piggybacking on her that there were other, you know, comments about the same thing. Like, one of the things that I had mentioned was, you know, we wanted to draw people into the IB program, and, you know, as a way to get kids to transfer into our school and utilize the program, being one of the few in the area. And if those kids don't get considered, if they're coming here, you know, at a certain time into that class rank, it may be a deterrent, because class rank, when people are looking to, you know, go to college is a big deal. So just on to have that in the back of their minds as well, that, you know, if we're trying to be a drawn in, like a go-to for these programs, and these kids then would be discounted from that, it might be a deterrent to grow that program.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0-0.
Okay.
Still you.
The next one is observations of special education programs. There was only one change that was made, if I can find it, here it is. Actually, two, I guess. It was at the beginning, a sentence there was taken out in response to the January 8th, 2009 legislative amendment. They took that out, and they added in the middle of the paragraph, the parent and/or parent's designee must be escorted at all times during the observation, and they removed it from the bullets, so it wouldn't be repetitive. Any questions?
Take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500.
Then the next one is a social networking for staff. I hope that everyone had a chance to take a look at it because it's quite a bit that was put in there.
Yeah.
Any questions on it?
So all that yellow was added?
Yeah.
Wow.
Could I just ask, where did those changes come from? Did those come from a mask policy?
I
Was it
believe it
modeled?
was to fall in line with the town policy, so that
Right,
the
that's
school
right.
and the town were on the same for municipal employees, so that everything fell in line across the town. Because part of the thing is like the website, the school website, and that's listed under the town website or considered a town domain name. So they wanted to blanket it so that it was the same usage town-wide for municipal employees.
Okay, thank you.
Take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Passes 500.
And the last one is a transportation emergency safety and crisis response, and there was no change made to this policy.
Take a motion to approve.
So moved. Oh, second.
Any further discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500. And that is it for the transportation. Did we want to discuss,
Well, I had a question about a policy.
Oh.
Could I ask that? So, I don't know, I think we all received the same mail from Mask at home, and so I received something from them about the public comment. They call it public comment, we call it public participation policy, with some suggested language based on a court case. I believe it was the Natick School Committee. And so I didn't know if that was something that should be looked at, or we wait until the next, I mean, that policy wouldn't naturally come up again for a few years. So is that something that would be pulled forward?
is that something what?
Would we pull that policy forward again and look at it and with that language in mind?
I suppose if you wanted to recommend it, I mean, it just,
Well, I took a look at our policy and that policy, and there were, it's a bit procedural, what they suggest, but again, it's based on, legal action that was taken, so.
right.
So yes, I guess I would ask that at least be looked at, and maybe nothing will happen, nothing will change.
Yeah, I mean, if the policy review so I don't know how that works. I mean, so the policy review has their own chair, and I guess, but if you want to request that of the chair to look at that,
Okay,
then Michelle, do you think, is that how that would work, or should I say, yes, please look at this?
Yeah, you can request as a school committee to ask your subcommittee.
All right, so
Based on the case and the information.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not on the agenda tonight to do that, but I mean, would you?
no, but
would
it's
you-
under
yeah,
reports, so
yeah,
that's why I thought.
Yeah, I mean, would you mind just looking, at the next meeting, just put it on your agenda, just take a look at it? Sure.
Do you have that information that I'm talking about, or do you want me to send it to
Yeah,
you?
you better send it to me.
Okay. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Usually open up those things.
Okay. And so then I guess under school committee reports, I also just wanted to mention that on January 28th, Dr. Shaverhood and I were present at the selectmen's meeting because there were two town meeting articles that the school committee had approved to be submitted to the selectmen to be included on the town meeting warrant. The first one was about the statement of interest for the MSBA for the high school and the middle school project. So after some discussion, that was approved by the selectmen. The second article was one that we had approved a few months ago about the name of the new elementary school. We had submitted it and requested that it be included on the town meeting warrant. Not only did they not approve it, they chose not to vote on it. And so by not voting on it, that precluded it from being included on the town meeting warrant for April. So I just wanted to report on that. You know, I'd just like to emphasize that it's an article that we as a school committee had approved, but they chose not to include it.
I thought they did vote.
So
They did not vote. They voted
What
to, they
did
voted,
they vote for then?
they voted to approve the MSBA statement of interest article to go on to town meeting.
Yeah,
So that will be at town meeting as we approved it.
yeah.
But the article that we approved to be submitted regarding the name of the school, they took no vote.
Because when I read it in the paper, they said that 4 said no and 1 abstained on that.
Yep, that was the MSBA one.
Oh, it was? I took it
yeah, I
as-
think that was because, I think that was, oh, no, she might be right. But I know one of them abstained because of process, had to go through capital planning or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the MSBA one.
But then I think, for some reason, I'm thinking Mr. Muniz abstained on the other
Yeah.
one for some reason.
I thought I read it
But
the
anyway,
same way.
anyway, it didn't go, what was that?
Yeah.
What did she say?
He abstained on 2.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So anyway, thank you.
Well, it wasn't approved.
Yeah.
Town meeting.
But that's interesting because I couldn't make it. I was 3 hours away in Pittsfield for work, but I did watch the video, and I was disappointed. We were told that if we wanted, so much confusion about how the proper process to go about naming it, and they told us that according to the town council that if we wanted to change it, we had to go through town meeting. And so this is what we tried doing as a committee, a semi-autonomous committee, duly elected officials. We voted this. It went before the Board of Selectmen, and they shot it down. They denied it. They wouldn't even let it move forward. I'll have a lot more to say about it later, but what ended up happening is I filed a citizen's petition to do it, and I worked with Ms. Bakayaki on that, and it will be on the warrant. The people will have a say in this, and they will know exactly what they're voting on. It won't be some afterthought, title of an article. It'll be a real warrant article that will read as follows: warrant article. To see if the town will vote to name the new elementary school currently under construction at 63 Minot Ave and scheduled to open in January 2022 as the, quote, Wareham Elementary School, end quote. And like I said, I'll have a lot more to say about it at a later date, but this will go to a town meeting vote. I confirmed it with the Selectman's office that it was added to the warrant. It was interesting. Chairman Trapiano was animated about the citizens petition process and how he felt that it was a way of evading the Board of Selectmen, going around them. And we tried. We tried to go with them, and this is the only other option. And so we'll see where it goes. And I'll be discussing it more later. And with that, any other business? No, seeing none? Okay. So we have an executive session, and the way this works is we're still in public session, so we have to take a vote to go into executive session, and I'll read why, and then we're going to come back into public session for a possible vote, a maybe vote, but maybe not, maybe just adjourn. So I'm going to read it. So I need a motion to go. Michelle, let me know if I got this right. I need a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of collective bargaining, MOU, WEA Unit C paraprofessionals per Chapter 30A, Section 2. That's the first item that we need to do in executive session. And the other item is to discuss executive session minutes. Huh? Oh, sorry, per Chapter 30A, Section 7. And we'll be coming out of executive session to possibly vote, or maybe adjourn, we're not sure. Well, we will, at some point, yeah, but there might be a possible vote. So with that, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, so, do we need a roll call on that, Michelle? All right, so, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, passes 5-0-0. We're in executive session. I need to ask members of the public to step out and
Microphones off.
microphones, Mr. White, yeah, microphones off. Okay, so welcome. We are back in public session in order to take a vote. And I guess I would entertain a motion to approve the agreement entered into by the Wareham Education Association and Wareham School Committee regarding the sick bank. If anyone would like to make a motion about that? No? Well, all right, so all right, I don't want to make the motion as chair, but I'll just do it, and we can take it from there, and then someone can, say so moved. All right. I need a motion to accept the memorandum of agreement between the Wareham School Committee and the Wareham Education Association regarding the sick bank with change as follows. In the line item numbered 1, change the 29 to 15.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? I'm sorry.
April did.
All right, seeing none, all right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0-0. Ms. Ruiz, you obviously have a copy of this, yeah. And with that, I think I'll take a motion to adjourn, right?
So moved.
Second? Oh,
Second it.
all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0-0. We are
These back to Michelle as
adjourned.
well.
Yes.